So this is lecture 25th lecture in design of reinforced concrete structure in unit 3 talks about curtailment of reinforcements. Curtailment means you are cutting the reinforcement, unnecessary reinforcements are taken it out. Okay, we will see what does that mean. I'm going to explain this through the problem. Okay. Now this is the 6th problem in this shear design. So a tapered cantilever beam of span 3 meter has a constant width. Width is constant, that is 300 mm, and tapers from 250 mm effective depth at the free end to 550 mm at the support. The beam is subjected to a factored UDL of 80 kN per meter, including its self weight. Cover to the center of the steel is 50 mm. Design the shear reinforcement at 1.5 meter from the free end. If the longitudinal reinforcement of 5 numbers of 25 mm diameter is curtailed to 2 numbers of 25 mm diameter at this section. Use M25 grade concrete and Fe415 grade steel. Okay. So the problem is slightly different here. The design the shear reinforcement, where you have to design the shear reinforcement at 1.5 meter from the free end. At that section, you have to design the shear reinforcement. If the longitudinal reinforcement of 5 numbers of 25 mm diameter, originally there are 5 numbers of 25 mm diameter is curtailed to 2 numbers of 25 mm diameter at this section. Use M25 and Fe415 grade steel. So these are the given data. Span is given. It is nothing is mentioned, so it's a clear span. Okay. And the load given is the beam is subjected to a factored UDL. Factored UDL including self weight is given. So it is a total WU. Okay, 80 kN per meter. Effective cover is given as 50 mm. Right. And M25 Fe415 is given. Now if we see the section, so this span is 3 meters and this beam is per meter. This is a total UDL intensity, okay, including self weight, live load. This is the UDL intensity, factored UDL. Okay, remember I am writing WU. WU means factored UDL. Now at this section 1.5 meter, this is 1.5 meter from the free end. So remaining this also will be 1.5 meter. Obviously, for a cantilever beam, your bending moment is 0 at this free end, and bending moment is going to keep on varying. At the end, it will be maximum. So here, maximum bending moment will be there at the fixed end. Here, the bending moment is 0, right? Similarly, shear force also will be maximum at this point. Shear force will be less here. Okay, that you can easily draw bending moment diagram and shear force diagram. Then you will find that the shear force at this point will be half of the shear force here. Okay, so that means 80 into 1. How much is the shear force at this point at this section? 80 is at UDL. For 1 meter it is 80 kilonewton. For 1.5 meter, 1.5 into 80, that will be 120 kilonewton is the shear force at this section. But if you find out shear force at this section, it will be 240. 80 into 3, 240 kilonewton will be the shear force at this point. So shear force is only half. At this point, you have to design the shear reinforcement. Okay. Now, as I told you, bending moment is 0 here, and parabolically where is here to an amount of WL square by 2 at this point at the fixed end. So now need here the bending moment. So here what they are saying is that total, remember this is a cantilever beam. So main tensile reinforcement will be at the top or at the bottom? Main tensile reinforcement in a cantilever beam. Where?
Top, sir.
At top, okay. So at the top you have provided the reinforcement. But what they are saying is that phi number of 25 mm diameter. So here is the support, the fixed support, your bending moment will be maximum. In that place, you need phi number of 25 mm diameter bar at this place here. Here will be phi number of 25 mm diameter bar. But at 1.5 meter from end, 1.5 meter from the free end, the number of rods are only how many? 2 or 3? This here. From here to here, it is 2 or 3 based on the you read here sentence. Phi number of 25 mm diameter is curtailed to 2 number of 25 mm diameter at this section. So here, number of main reinforcement is how many?
2.
2, because it is curtailed to 2 numbers. So this is from here to here, there are only 2 number of 25 mm bars. But here from 1.5 meter till the fixed end, you have 5 number of 25 mm diameter bars. Is that clear? Any doubt in this one? 5 numbers and 2 numbers. Anybody having any doubt? Because if you make this wrong, everything else will be wrong in the given data. And of course, this is 250 mm is effective depth at the free end. So 250 mm effective from the compression end till the center of the tensile reinforcement 250 mm. Similarly, from the compression end till the center of the tensile steel, it is 550 mm. Okay, so it is a tapered cantilever beam. Total is 3 meter span. At the free end, you have a 250 mm effective depth. At the fixed end, you have 550 mm effective depth as per the given statement. The beam is subjected to UDL of 80 kN per meter. That is a total UDL intensity. And the cover is 50 mm given, that is okay. Design the shear reinforcement at 1.5 meter from the free end. From at this point, you have to design the shear reinforcement at this section. That means from here to here, you have to design for here this portion. And given is if the longitudinal reinforcement 5 number of 25 mm dia, this is 5 number of 25 mm dia, but here only there are 2 number of 25 mm dia. Use M25 and Fe415 grade steel. So obviously you can find out tan beta, right? Beta means so this slope is beta, right? This is beta. So tan beta is opposite side divided by adjacent side. Opposite side is how much? This is 250, this is 350, so the difference will be 300, that is this one. Divided by total span, 3 meter means 3000 mm. So you are getting tan beta as 0.1. Now, what is the effective depth at this point? Remember, it is exactly at the middle. Total is 3 meter. This is exactly at the middle, so I can directly find out the average. This is 250 mm. This is 550 mm. Half of that will be 400 mm. So effective depth at this section at 1.5 meter from the free end is 400 mm. So everything you will calculate at this point only, at this section only, because you have to design the shear reinforcement for this section. You are not designing the shear for fixed support. You are designing the shear for the 1.5 meters for the section at 1.5 meter away from the free end. So everything you have to calculate with respect to this section. Is that clear? So if you see the reinforcement arrangement, these are the top rods. This is the hanger bar or anchor bar. These are the stirrups. Now if you see the plan, if you look at from the top, if you look at this from the top layer, if you look at like this, only the top layer will be like this. So these two bars will be from beginning to end, the corner bars. This is the plan, okay? This is the plan at top layer. Now these are the 3 reinforcement from here to from the fixed end to the up to 1.5 meter distance. These are the 3 bars. After that 3 bars are curtailed, only 2 bars are there. So these are the stirrups, okay? So if you see the plot, it will be like this. And because your bending moment is maximum, you need the maximum moment of reinforcement. That is why you have 5 rods. Bending moment here is 0, so you need a very minimal reinforcement. Here the bending moment will be much less than what is here. So that is why you need only few reinforcement beyond a particular section. Okay. Now our question is, how do you design? What is the shear reinforcement? How will you provide shear reinforcement at this section? Okay. So this is 1.5 meter. Now you will see what is the factored shear force and bending moment at the given section. Now you know the load is 80 kilonewton per meter, and this is 1.5 meter. Now with respect to this section, factored shear force VUXX I am writing. Why? Because I am finding out shear force at the section XX, that is 1.5 meter from the left support. So 80 is the intensity of total intensity of factored UDL, 80 kilonewton per meter, and the right side distance is 1.2. Remember, factored shear force means sum of all the vertical force, either left side or right side of a section. So in the right side of the section, you have only one UDL, that is 80 kilonewton per meter, and it is there for a length of 1.5 meter. So 80 into 1.5, 120 kilonewton. So 120 into 10 cube Newton. This is the factored shear force. Similarly, factored bending moment at the section MUXX equal to WX square by 2. W is 80, and the span is right side span is only 1.5. So 1.5 square by 2. So this is coming out to be 90 kilonewton meter, which is 90 into 10 power 6 Newton millimeters. Okay. Any doubts so far? Anybody? Okay. So now from page number 72 of IS 456 to 2000, you know, if it is a tapered section, nominal shear stress of V is given by Vu plus or minus mu by d into tan beta divided by Bd, and we will not use Vu, we will be using Vuxx Muxx, because we are finding it is not the maximum value. We are not designing for the maximum shear force. We are designing for the shear force at a particular section. That is why we should use Vuxx Muxx in this formula. And plus minus sign, as I mentioned earlier, your bending moment is increasing in the direction of increase of the depth of the section. So as bending moment is increasing numerically in the same direction and the depth increases, which you already know, I explained before also. Suppose this is your beam, okay, where depth is increasing from one side to other side, and this is the load. Obviously, your bending moment diagram will be like this, parabolic variation. Depth is increasing in this direction, bending moment is also increasing in this direction. Because both are in the same direction, you will use minus sign as per the code. So tau V is equal to Vuxx is 120 kilonewton or 120 into 10 cube newtons, minus Muxx is 90 into 10 power 6. Most of the time students make mistake, this 10 power 6 and all, they will make mistake. Please be careful with the unit. We are always working with Newton and millimeters. So shear force is in newtons, 120 into 10 cube Newton, minus bending moment is 90 kilonewton meter, so 90 into 10 power 6 Newton millimeters, divided by D is, again D is at the section only, Dxx, that is 400 mm, we have found earlier, and tan beta also 0.1, which we have found in the first slide, divided by B into D. B is constant width is given, and the depth at the particular section is 400 mm. So if you calculate, tau V is coming out to be 0.8125 Newton per millimeter square. So this is the tau V value, 0.8125 Newton per millimeter square. Only thing you should remember is, in this formula, Du, Mu and D should be calculated as per for the particular given section, not for the maximum value. Now, design shear strength tau C and check for shear reinforcement. So as you know, from table 73 of IS, sorry, from page number 73, table 19 of IS 456. Now, as you know, AST available at the section is only 2 number of 491, right? So remember, you may get sometime confused right here. See, all of you are able to see this here. At this section, when you see at this section, here how many number of reinforcement there available on the right side? How many AST available on the right side?
2, sir.
Only 2 are there. This one and this one is there, right? Only 2 are there. Left side only 5 is there, but right side only 2 are there. That is why you will take AST available at the section only 2 into 491, 982 millimeter square. Okay, for one number of 25 mm diameter bar, the area is 491. So AST available at that section is 982 millimeters square. So from table 19, if you see 100 AST by VDL, percentage of tensile steel provided at this section is 100 AST divided by VDXX. 100 into AST 982, B is 300, D at the section is 400. It is coming out to 0.82%. And from table 19 for 0.82% and M25 grade, you already know this interpolation. I am not going to repeat the step again. But if you have any doubt, you ask. But otherwise, I am going to go ahead. So using linear interpolation, find tau c. So obviously 0.82 is between 0.75 and 1. Remember, you are in table this one. I will go to the table here. So table 19, design shear strength tau c in Newton per millimeter square. This value is given in terms of 0.25 interval, 0.25% interval. Okay. So if you got 0.82, so you'll see for 0.75 and M25 concrete, 0.75 and M25 is 0.57. Next one is for 1 it is 0.64. So your value will be more than 0.57, less than 0.64. These are the value you have to look for it. So if you go back, now if you find that out, tau c is coming out to be 0.57 plus 0.64 minus 0.57. This 0.25 is the different, okay, difference. 1 minus 0.75, okay. And this is the interpolation. You are getting 0.589 Newton per millimeter square. And tau v we found out what? 0.8125. Actually, this earlier value in the previous step we found out tau v value, that is 0.8125. Tau c is only point. The design shear strength of concrete without providing any shear reinforcement is only 0.589 Newton per millimeter square. But the stress acting on the section due to shear is 0.8125. It is more than the strength. So you have to provide shear reinforcement. Okay, so your design shear strength is less than the nominal shear stress. So therefore, and also from table 20 for M25 grade concrete, tau c max is 3.1. That again you can see in the board at the bottom. If you see for M25 grade concrete, tau c max is 3.1. Remember, if your tau v is more than this tau c max, the design is completely wrong. You have to redesign. You have to increase the depth. Okay, you cannot have a nominal shear stress more than the tau c max. So please remember that. Okay. So that is why we are always comparing tau c max. Now, if you see as tau c as your tau v is 0.8125 is greater than tau c, that was 0.589, and less than 3.1 Newton per millimeter square, design the shear reinforcement. So far, everything is same as what we discussed before. Okay. Now, there is a slight change. Because we are cutting the reinforcement in between in the tensile zone, your code says some particular specification. We will look into that now. Okay. Remember, if the main reinforcements are cut, you have, I am saying cut, I am not saying bent up. Bent up means all the reinforcements are there. Here, the reinforcement is 3 number of 25 mm diameter bar is cut at 1.5 meter only. So instead of 3 meter, you have only 1.5 meter length. Okay. So when the main tensile reinforcements are cut, your code says design of reinforcement including curtailment criteria. This is given in 26.2.3.2 in page number 44. Is that clear? What is mean by curtailment? Curtailment means you are cutting off some reinforcement where it is not required. Okay. So If you are cutting down the reinforcement, then the design is slightly different. That is given in 26.2.3.2. What we do initially, what we do in the without curtailment, what we will do? We already found out tau c, we have found out tau v, we have found out tau c max. We have designed the shear reinforcement, right? So if you go back into the previous problems, see here. If it is the earlier problem, we have found the tau v value. We have found out tau c value, and we are comparing. Here the design shear reinforcement conclusion came. Then we are designing shear reinforcement. Factored shear force is so and so. Shear resisted by concrete alone, Vc is equal to tau c Bd. Shear to be resisted by the shear reinforcement, Vus equal to Vu minus Vc. And this Vus is used for finding out the shear reinforcement. Okay. But when there is a curtailment involved, you have to use this 26.2.3.2 IS 456 2000 page number 44. So I am going to that particular section 44. Here. See here, curtailment of tension reinforcement in the flexural member. Flexural member means bending member or beam. Okay. Another name for a beam is flexural member. Curtailment of tension reinforcement in flexural member. Now here, okay, here it is one note is given. Yeah, the flexural reinforcement. Flexural reinforcement means tension reinforcement. Flexural reinforcement shall not be terminated in a tension zone. Flexural means bending reinforcement. Okay, flexural reinforcement shall not be terminated. Terminated means curtailed or cut. Shall not be terminated in a tension zone unless any one of the following conditions is satisfied. There are three conditions given. Any one of the following condition is satisfied. So I am going to satisfy this first only. Okay. The shear at the cutoff point does not exceed 2/3 that is permitted, including the shear strength of web reinforcement provided. And another criteria is given. You have to provide excess stirrups at the shear and torsion. Okay. You have to provide. You will design the beam for shear reinforcement for the given shear force. Plus, you will provide some more shear reinforcement in excess. That is the second criteria. So I am going to go with the first one. Okay, the shear at the cutoff point does not exceed 2/3 that is permitted, including the shear strength of web reinforcement provided. So here, what they are saying is that I am saying the equivalent shear at the cutoff section. Okay, that's what here the shear at the cutoff point, I am saying VUE does not exceed 2/3 that is permitted. Okay, that is the shear reinforcement. Whatever the shear reinforcement take, the 2/3 that is permitted, including the shear strength of web reinforcement. So here, remember, at any section, you have a concrete can take some shear strength, and your stirrups can take some shear strength. Okay. Now, if you put together and you take 2/3 value, this that factored that shear should be less than or equal to 2/3 VUE. Then you can do the curtailment of business. Okay, so the shear at this section should be less than 2/3 of the total shear, including the web reinforcement, web shear reinforcement. Right? This is the web shear reinforcement. That is the vertical stirrups, and this is the taken by concrete. This is 2/3. So now you can rearrange this equation, because I am interested to find out VUS. I am interested to find out VUS. So I can take this side 3/2 like that. Okay. So I am changing this. VUS is equal to 3/2, and the symbol will change. Okay. VUS is equal to 3/2 minus VC. Right? Is that clear? Is that clear? Is any doubt here? Okay, so what they are saying in this, because your flexural tension reinforcement is already cut at 1.5 meter. Okay, code says Your flexural reinforcement can be cut only if this any one of these three conditions satisfied. A, B, C is satisfied. That I am going to go with A. The shear at the cutoff point, shear means shear force. The shear force at the cutoff point does not exceed means it should be less than or equal to 2/3 of shear resistance, that is including the shear 2/3 that is permitted. That is permitted means, see, permitted means what? Strength. Whatever the strength is there, out of that 2/3 if you calculate, this shear force should be less than this 2/3 of this value. Okay. Let us say shear is BUE, that should be less than or equal to 2/3 of the strength available at that section. And at any section, the shear strength is calculated by using the how much shear taken by the concrete plus how much shear taken by the shear reinforcement. So that is why they have written shear strength of web reinforcement and the shear strength of concrete. So that is why the VUE should be less than 2/3 of shear strength of the concrete plus shear strength of the web shear reinforcement. Now I am going to rearrange it. Because I hope I am interested to find out VUS, because all other value I know, but VUS I do not know. I am going to find out VUS. VUS equal to 3/2. I think it should be greater than or equal to. So this is not correct. This should be, when you take other side, it should be greater than or equal to 3/2 VU minus VC. So I can, for sake I can take VUS equal to that. What is VUE means? This VUE means effective shear. Effective shear is this one, BUXX minus MUXX by DXX into tan beta. That means that is the effective shear. Because this is a tapered cantilever beam, we have to do this. Suppose if you have been given a normal beam, that VUX will itself you will take. Okay, this will not come. If it is not a tapered cantilever beam, this term will not come. Okay, this minus term will not come. VU will be VUXX only. Okay. So okay, right now this effective shear is VUXX, whatever the shear force at that particular section, minus MUXX DXX tan beta. Now what is VC? VC is, so V, if you calculate, we already know VUXX we calculated before step, MUX DX, everything is calculated before. So if you substitute, you will get 97,500 Newton. Now left is VC. VC, you know, VC is nothing but tau C into BD. Tau C calculated in the previous step, 0.589. D is the width of the beam, 300 mm. D again at the section XX only. D is at the at 1.5 meter, that is 400 millimeters. So if you calculate this tau C BD, it is coming out to be 70 into 680 Newton. So remember, here something is wrong. Can you see here? This is something wrong here.
Sir.
This is here something wrong. Can you guess what is wrong?
3/2 should not come to whole, sir.
Yeah, this is only. Yeah. Thank you very much. At least you are paying attention. 3/2 is only for here, not here. Okay. This is not there. Because 3/2 is going this side, 3/2 VE minus VC. So this anyway in the next slide I would have written correctly, I think. So VS equal to, it should be greater than or equal to 3/2 VU minus VCE. So VES should be greater than or equal to 3/2. VU is 97,500 minus 7680. So VES is coming out to be 75,570. So in the earlier problem, we found out VUS equal to VU minus tau CBD. But here, this one you have to take into account. That's all. There is no other difference. Whenever curtailment is there, this will come into the picture. So now, providing two-legged 8 mm diameter vertical strap. This is from here on everything else same. Providing, remember, shear design means only you will assume this one, two-legged 8 mm diameter, two-legged 10 mm diameter. The design is only how how much should be the spacing of the stirrups. Okay. So the spacing of the stirrups from page number 73 for a vertical stirrup VUS equal to 0.87 Fy ASV into D divided by SV. As usual, 0.87 Fy is 415, ASV means 2 into pi by 4 8 square. That is 100 it will come, because for a 8 mm diameter bar it is 50. 2 into 50 it will be 100. D is 400 mm. VUS is here. SV you can find out. So ASV is here. So if you substitute all these things, VUS is 75.57 into 10 cube, 0.87 Fy ASV D at the section divided by SV. If you calculate, SV is coming out to be 191 millimeters. Now this is the first spacing. Okay. Now as per your check for spacing of stirrups, in page number 47, it given the spacing shall not exceed 0.75 the D, wherever it's not, this D is not 550. Remember, this is at the wherever you design the shear force, at that section what is the effective depth available. So 0.75 into D is 400, that is 300 mm. This is 300 mm again. So this is second check, this is third check. Your final spacing should be less than 1, 2 and 3. Remember, for the first spacing it was 191. Second one is 300 mm. Third also 300 mm. So I am providing 2 8 mm diameter vertical stirrups at 190 mm center to center, because I got 191 in the first, so I am taking only 190 mm. Okay. Don't round up to 200 mm. If you are providing 200 mm, your section will fail in shear. Is that clear? Remember, why it should not be 200 mm? If I go back, see. Let us say if I take 200 mm here, all of you pay clear attention here. If I take 200 mm and if you put 200 mm here, if you find out this value will be less than 75. VUS is nothing but what? What do you mean by VUS? Anybody? What is VUS? Here also there. Anybody is there? What is mean by VUS?
Strength of shear reinforcement.
Shear force to be resisted by the shear reinforcement. Okay. How much shear the shear reinforcement should resist? Shear reinforcement should resist 75.57 kilonewton. Suppose here instead of SV, instead of 190, if you put 200, because this 200 is coming in a denominator, this value is going to be less than 75.57. That means your shear reinforcement should take 75.57 kilonewton. But if you provide a higher spacing, your shear strength of shear reinforcement will reduce. Consequently, your beam will fail. So that is why spacing should always be less than all these three values, less than or equal to. Okay, it cannot be greater. Okay, obviously. If a labor cannot provide 191 exactly, so you round up to whole number to the lower number, not to the higher number. So I have written here 190 mm. So you can go with 175 or 180 or whatever. Okay, it should be less than 191. Okay. So finally, if I draw the reinforcement detail, I am going to provide reinforcement only on this right side, because I am designing shear at this section, not here. So this is my final reinforcement details. Okay. 2-legged 8 mm dia vertical stirrup at 190 mm center to center. Suppose if you are finding out here, obviously there is no curtailment of reinforcement, because 5 rods are available to here. Here all the 5 rods are available. So you will do as a normal procedure what we have done. But at the curtailment point, you have to do all these things. Is there clear? Any doubt? Anybody? Anybody have any doubt? Okay. Okay, this is all about the design of shear reinforcement. Remember, I have done for the only vertical stirrups if it is there, how the shear reinforcements are designed. Then if there are bend up bars, how the reinforcements are designed, shear reinforcement designed, that is also we discussed. If there is a tapered cantilever beam, how to find out the nominal shear stress, that we did. Then we also discussed how to find out the strength of shear reinforcement at various sections if bend up bars are given, that also discussed. Next, fifth question we discussed was if there is we have taken T-beam design in the second unit. In the continuation, how to do the shear reinforcement design, that also saw, that is a fifth question. Sixth question in the design was if there is a curtailment of tension reinforcement and if you have to design the shear reinforcement at the curtailment section, then how to do the shear reinforcement. All these 6 problems are we have seen it. So please go through it once again. And if you have any doubt, you are always welcome to get back to me. Okay. But you should clear your doubt then and there. So today only go back and refer. Maximally by tomorrow you should come up with a doubt if you have any. Okay. So next, these are all reinforcement detailing as I told you, right? Your final figure should be end with this one. Okay. So next topic is bond anchorage length and development length. Okay. So I want to finish this particular section, theoretical portion. So if it go beyond 3:30, please all of you wait. Don't run away at 3:30. I want you to be present. I may take maybe 10 minutes extra, but I want to finish this one. And everything is given in the code. I will go through the code side by side. Okay. Now, what is bond? What is anchorage length? What is development length? Okay. Now you see here the term bond in reinforced concrete refers to the interaction between the reinforcing steel and the surrounding concrete that allows for transfer of stress from the steel into the concrete. Okay. So bond means the friction, the stress that is existing between the steel reinforcement and the surrounding concrete, that is called bond. Okay. It is mainly attributed to the bond stress. Now, the bond between steel and concrete ensures strain compatibility. Now, sometimes they will ask, what is strain compatibility? Strain compatibility means the strain at any point in the steel is equal to the strain in the corresponding adjoining concrete. Okay. Because many times, if you want to find out what is the strain in the steel, obviously, see, remember, 1 second. If you take a cross section of the beam, okay, your reinforcement is embedded into the concrete. It is not visible to naked eye. Okay, so I want to find out what is the strain at this point. Now, what we can do is whatever the strain available at this in the concrete at this level, the same level, the same strain is available in the steel also, and that is only possible when there is a perfect bond between this steel and the surrounding concrete. Okay, so that is why it is called strain compatibility. Okay. Now, next one, the proper bond also ensure that there is no slip between steel bars relative to the surrounding concrete under the service load. And this is the reason the plane section remain plane even after bending is valid only if there is a perfect bond between concrete and steel. Because many times if you see our strain diagram, we are drawing a strain diagram like this, right? 0.0035 here, and this is here is the steel values. This is epsilon y, this is 0.0035, and in between this is linear variation. This linear variation is only possible when there is a proper bond between concrete and steel. Okay. Next, bond is a structural property that is dependent not only on the concrete strength but also on the geometry of the reinforcing bar and the structural member itself. See, you have a mild steel bar, you have a deformed bars, high yield strength deformed bar, that is a ribbed steel is there. Sometimes the bars are in square shape, sometimes bars are in round shape. Okay, so depending upon the geometry and also concrete strength, like you have a high grade concrete strength, very low grade also there. So bond depends upon all these property, not only on the concrete but also on the geometry of the reinforcing bars. Okay. Now, if you see here, this is taken from Subramaniam book, Design of Reinforced Concrete Structure by Subramaniam book. This is simply supported beam. This is a bar. Let us say this bar is a mild steel bar or a smooth steel bar, fully oiled, thoroughly oiled on the surface. Now, if you apply a load, obviously because it is thoroughly oiled and the bar is a plain bar or a very smooth bar, this will bend and there will be end slip here. There will be a slip, like if you see here at this end. 1 second, I will zoom it. See here, there is a slip here because of there is no bond between steel and the concrete, because the steel is a smooth one and we have coated with some grease or oil. So obviously there will be slip between concrete and steel. So this is called end slip, and the same end slip will be there on the right side also. Now, instead of providing plain steel, you provide the deformed bar where you have a lot of corrugations will be there on the surface. Then automatically this slip will not take place. This slip will not take place. Okay, it try to reduce. I'm in class. I'm calling them. So because it is a high yield strength deformed bar and it does not allow to slip, so the entire bar will be subjected to compression. Okay, this sorry, it tried to come close to each other, but concrete does not allow. So that is why the bar will be the steel will be subjected to tensile force. Now this tensile force will be converted to a compressive force at this point, because concrete is strong in compression. Concrete can take compression force. So if you see here, this concrete at this level is subjected to compressive force. The steel is subjected to tensile force. Okay, so that is why this is a bond stress due to flexure, due to bending. How the bond stress develop, that's what written here. So bond force acting on the concrete, these are all compressive force, and the steel bond force acting on the steel, which is a tensile force. Okay, steel is strong in compression and tension. Concrete is strong only in compression. That is why bond force acting on this is a compressive force, this is a tensile force. Now this bond is measured by bond stress. Okay, depending upon the bond stress, bond is measured. Now there are two types of bond stress. One is flexural bond stress or local bond stress. Now if we see what is flexural bond stress or local bond stress, it arises in a flexural member. Flexural member means beams on account of variation of bending moment or shear force, which imposes axial tension along the length of the reinforcing bars. I will explain you in a further slides now what is mean by local bond stress. So, and second one is anchorage bond stress. It occurs over the length of the anchorage provided for reinforcing bar near the support or at the cutoff point. These and all we are going to see. But for now, you remember there are two types of bond stress. One is a flexural or local bond stress. Another one is anchorage bond stress. Now here we are going to see what is flexural bond stress or local bond stress. Let us say you have a simple support and a beam is there, and it is subjected to a external load, and this is the neutral axis or neutral layer, where above which it will be subjected to compression. Below the neutral axis, everything will be subjected to tension. Now this is subjected to external load P. Reaction will be P by 2, P by 2. You know how the bending moment diagram looks like. Like this is the bending moment diagram looks like for WL by 4 or PL by 4 is the bending moment. At simple support, your bending moment is 0. At the midspan under the load, you have a maximum bending moment. Same is the here also. Now, if I take this bending moment diagram, if I take this is the reinforcement provided at the tension side to take care of the tensile forces. Now, if I take a small element here, at this section, this length is the element length is dx. Now, the bending moment is m1 here. This is the m1 here, right? At this is the value m1. Okay, so m1 is only this much from here to here. This is m1. Okay, now m2 is here, m2, this is m2, right? So over the small length dx, This is experiencing tensile bending moment M1. This is experiencing bending moment M2. Now, depending upon bending moment, your stress will vary. Like using simple bending equation, sigma is equal to m by I into y, right? So, because your m is varying between these two sections, so if you calculate tensile force, on one side T is there, and the other end you will have a T plus dt, and this produces the shear stress here. That is called flexural or local bond stress. Okay, because this body has to be in equilibrium. Now this has only T tensile force T. 1 second. There is something missing here. This has only T. This has T plus TT. So obviously there will be a bond stress developed over this one, or local stress, to keep the body in equilibrium. That is called a local stress or bond stress. But researchers have found that it is not because of T and T plus TT your bond stress is flexural, local stress is developing. Not because of that. Because of the load, it may tend to crack here. At the middle, it may tend to crack. The concrete may crack all this thing. Whenever there is a crack, the steel will directly experience more tensile force. Suppose if I take sorry. If I take this section, here there is a crack, so your steel will be directly subject to tension. Whereas here there is no crack here. Here the tensile stress in the steel will be much less. So here it will be more. So researchers are saying recently that it is not the variation of tensile force or variation of bending moment is causing the bond or local stress. It is due to the crack. There is a variation in the stress. Local stress variation is there, like that they are saying. Okay, that is local bond stress or flexural stress. Now, if a plain bars are used, the bond due to relatively weak. Obviously, if the bars are very plain, the bond between or friction between plain bars and concrete is very small. So it will easily broken at large loads. Hence, the beam will collapse as the bars are pulled through the concrete. To prevent this, end anchorage in the form of hooks are often provided. For example, here I have provided mild steel like this, plain bar. What they are saying is, if you provide a very plain steel, right, without any this kind of hook, because this is subjected to tensile force. If it is subject to tensile force, it will easily come out. So now to prevent this, end anchorage in the form of hooks are often provided. Like this, if you see here at this point, there is an anchorage here, 180-degree bend on both sides. This should be definitely provided if you are using plain bars. But if you are using, and this is called anchorage length. This is called anchorage length. That we will study in the future. But you should know this: the plain bar should be bent like this. Then only when you apply the force externally, even though there is a tensile force, this hook will not allow the rod to slip. Okay, to avoid slip, there should be a hook on this side, on the both side also. Okay, so this is also from Subramaniam book only. Most of the figures are from Subramaniam book. Okay, so now anchorage or development bond is the bond developed near the extreme ends or at cutoff point of a bar subjected to tension or compression. For example, this is a cantilever beam. This is a cantilever beam. Now, obviously, in the cantilever beam, it is subjected to external load. The tension will be at the top. So, you are providing tensile reinforcement at the top. Now, if you take a section here, this bar will be subjected to complete tension. All the tension will be at this point. Okay. So, anchorage or development bond is the bond developed near the extreme end. This is the extreme end or a cutoff point, you can say. This if you cut here or at the extreme end, subjected to tension. This is tension. Okay. Now, if you take at this point, this is AB. Okay, AB is the development length here. Now this is A and this is B. Now bond stress vary like this. If at this point the total amount of bond stress is this much. Now at this point, if I take here, bond stress is available is only this much. So if I take a pen, now suppose let us say I want to find out what is a bond stress at this point. Bond stress at this point is only this area, only this is the stress. Okay. What is the bond stress at this point? There is no bond stress at all because nothing is there. But at this point you have a maximum bond stress. So bond stress will vary parabolically or curvilinearly, but it's not a linear variation. It's a highly non-linear variation. But you can take this as a uniform U average bond stress. This is a average uniform distribution. We are assuming it, and here this you see U average bond average bond stress. This is called average bond stress. This is the exact stress here. At this point, this is UA. At this point, somewhere something else will be there. At this point, something else will be there. So that is why it is very difficult to work with a non-linear stress distribution. So we are taking the uniform distribution that is called average bond stress or design bond stress. So generation of this is the cantilever beam. So possible variation of average bond stress, and this is assumed uniform bond stress. So this is again from Subramanian book. So now design bond stress is denoted by the symbol tau BD. All of you pay careful attention here because most of the time students make mistake in finding out tau BD. It is given in the table, but with some condition it is given. So design bond stress tau BD. The design bond stress tau BD is defined as the shear force per unit nominal surface area of the reinforcing bar. Shear force per unit nominal surface area of the reinforcing bar. The stress is acting on the interface between the bars and surrounding concrete and along the direction parallel to the force. Okay. So your table 2D 6.2.1.1 page number 43 of IS 456 gives the design bond stress value, this tau BD value. Remember, they are given for a plain bars. Plain bars means mild steel. Mild steel means Fe 250 steel. So I am going to go to that. Here. 26.2.1 design bond stress in limit state method. Remember, for plain bars in tension, please note this point. Many times students get make mistake. It is told very clearly this is only for the plain bars in tension. Now suppose if it is deformed bars such as Fe 415 or Fe 500, there is a modification to be made, that is here. Sometime you have to check for the compression bar, then now for okay, first we will discuss it. Grade of concrete is given M20 to M40 and above. This is the design bond stress tau BD in Newton per millimeter square 1.2, 1.4, 1.5, 1.7, 1.9. This is for the mild steel or plain bar Fe 250 steel and the bar is in tension. Now if you have Fe 415 steel, what you will do for a deformed bars, conforming to IS 1786, these values shall be increased by 60%. Shall be increased by 60% means, for example, suppose for M30 grade for Fe 415 steel, what is the value of tau BD? Anyone? I want to find out what is the design bond stress for M30 grade concrete and Fe 415 steel. What is the value of design bond stress? It is given here, na? How much it is?
2.1, sir. 2.1.
So you have to 1.5 multiplied by 1.5 multiplied by 1.6. Okay, for a Fe415 or Fe500 steel, if you want to find out design bond stress, you take the whatever value given in the table multiplied by 1.6. That is for a Fe415 or Fe500 steel. Now, if the bars are in compression, the value of bond stress for bars in tension shall be increased by 25%. Right? So, if you are trying to find out design bond stress for the bars in compression, the values in tension should be multiplied by increased by 25%. That means you have to multiply by 1.25. So please keep this in mind. When you read this table, read the value, read the note that is given just below the table also. Okay. When we solve the numerical, you will understand better. So for now, you should see. Okay. So tau BD values for a plain bars is given in tension. So these are the values given in the code. And for deformed bars, these should be multiplied by 60%. And for the bars in compression, these values should be multiplied by 1.25. Okay. Now, obviously, deformed bar is much superior to the mild steel, because if you are providing deformed bars are known to be superior to smooth mild steel. Okay, due to the presence of ribs. Okay. In such a case, it is needed to check for the sufficient development length LD only, rather than checking both the local bond stress and development length. So development lengths for anchorage, local bond is we already discussed. So if you are providing deformed bar, it is sufficient enough to check only development length. No need of checking the local bond stress. Okay, that's what they are saying. So accordingly, code number 26.2 stipulates that the requirement of proper anchorage and reinforcement in terms of development length only is needed, providing tau BD. That we will see while solving the problem. So obviously, see, these are all the smooth bars without any ribs, right? And you can see these are the ribbed bar. Obviously, friction will be much higher here. The bond between this steel and the concrete will be much higher than this. Okay. Okay. Now, development length. Many times this question asked, what is development length, what is anchorage? So the length of embedment means you are inserting length of embedment necessary to develop the full strength of the bar is called development length. Okay, this is the definition of development length. Suppose let us say this is a concrete and this is a reinforcing steel. Okay, now you apply a tensile force which is equal to the full tensile. Fy means 0.87 Fy means yield stress of the steel. So yield stress multiplied by the area of the steel will give you total tensile force. Okay. Now let us say these are the bond stress tau BD. This is the tau BD. Okay. And this diameter is the pi. Diameter of this bar is pi. And tau BD is the shear stress acting on the surface of this bar, surface area. Right. Now this is called development length, LD. Okay, this is LD, development length. Now what is this development length? Length of embedment. This is the length of from here to here. This is the length of embedment inside the concrete necessary to develop the full strength of the bar. Let us say you apply a tensile force to the fullest degree. Fullest degree means the stress is the yield stress, equivalent to yield stress. If you apply that, this bar should be safe in bond. Such a length is called development length. For example, if I provide the bar only very little, let us say I provide only here this much only. Obviously, when I pull, it will come out because the amount of length is very small, so it will easily come out. That is unsafe. So you have to put at least a length of development length. So now how will you for this bar to be safe in bond, this tensile force 0.87 Fy into AST is pi by 4 pi square. Okay, this is the area of steel should be equal to bond stress, design bond stress or average bond stress multiplied by What is the surface area? Pi into LD into diameter. Okay, this is the surface area. This is surface area. This is a stress. For the bar to be safe in the bond, this force should be equal to the bond force. Now, if you can find out what is the LD value, LD is equal to 0.87 Fy into pi divided by 4 times tau BD, and this is given in page number 42 in a different form. I will show you here. Here. The development length of bars LD is given by LD is equal to pi into sigma s divided by 4 tau BD, where pi is the nominal diameter of the bar, sigma is stress in the bar at the section considered at a design load. Tau BD is a design bond stress. Okay, so we are taking the design load means we are taking fully sigma is equal to 0.87 Fy. Okay, that is the only difference. But this is the development length formula. So at least this much development length should be there for this bar to be safe in bond. Okay, that is called development length. Now, pi is the nominal diameter of that bar. Tau BD is the design bond stress given in 26.2.1.1, page number 43 and 44. Now, when the required development length could not be provided in practical situation, bends, hooks and mechanical anchorage should be used to supplement on equivalent development length. This and all we will see while solving a problem. In general, development length need to be checked in the following situation or location. So wherever the maximum bending moment is there, at that time you have to check the development length. Wherever you are cutting off some of the bars, for example, in the previous example, we cut off some of the bars. So at all the section where the bars are cut off, tensile bars are cut off, at that point you have to check development length. At lap splices means, see, normally suppose let us say your continuous beam is going for very long, let us say 100 meter is going. Obviously, you don't find in the market a reinforcement bar of 100 meter length. Obviously, it is not possible. You will have only certain fixed length of the bar, reinforcing bar. Now, how will you maintain the long distance of the beam entire span? Obviously, you have to overlap with one another like this. You have to overlap it. This is called lap splicing. This overlapping is called lap splices. Okay. So at that point, you have to check development length. Now at supports of simply supported beam and at point of contraflexion also, you have to check the development length. At a cantilever support, you have to check the development length. In a flexural number that have relatively short span, whenever the beam span is very short, because when the span is very short, your shear force may be very high. So there also you have to check the development length. At beam column joint, lateral load resistance. This you don't require because you don't study beam column joint now. Now, sometimes the bars are, for example, many times we've seen, like for example in a beam, instead of providing single rod like this, at time to reduce the dimension and all, instead of having a single bar like this, you make bars in contact like this, either 2 bars or 3 bars or 4 bars. You like at one corner, at this one corner, you will have either 4 bars or 3 bars or 2 bars. This is called bars bundled in contact. It is again given in page number 43. So here, bars bundled in contact. The development length of each bar of the bundle bar shall be that for the individual bar increased by 10% for the 2 bars in contact, 20% for the 3 bars in contact, 33% for the 4 bars in contact. So how much should be the development length when you are using this kind of bars? So you have to, this will be 1.1 times for an individual bar. This will be for 1.2 times the individual bar. 1.2. This is 1.33 times the development length for an individual bar, 1.33. Okay, 33%. So now the bars may be anchored in combination of providing development length to maintain the integrity of sucker. So now what is the anchoring bars in tension, compression, shear respectively? These are all given in 26.2.2. Everything is given like anchoring of reinforced bar. Now here anchoring bars in tension.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, if these bundled bars are kept in that way, then we will lose the bond between concrete and bars, no sir, by keeping that bundles.
Yeah, but remember only at this junction you will lose, but you will have concrete everywhere else. Wherever,
No,
yeah,
sir.
yeah, but there are some conditions you will not normally you don't go for it. Only in the rare situation you will go for it. Okay, na? It's normally yeah, it's a very good question. Obviously, bond will be lost, but all these bar will be tied together by the external steel wires. These rods will be tied together by steel wires. Now you will have this much of all these external. This will be become your surface contact area with the concrete, right? These are all. The external surface will become a surface contact area. Similarly, here also your external surface will become a surface contact area. So that way they will maintain. If it is not proper, they will not go for this. Okay, they will take a proper care, enough care to make sure that bond is completely intact and beam is also safe. Okay, na? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Now that here anchoring of reinforcing bar in tension and compression and shear is there. It is given in 26.2.2. Again here, if you are anchoring bars in tension, deformed bars may be used without end anchorage provided the development length requirement is satisfied. But if the development length is not sufficient, hook should be normally provided for a plain bars in tension. So if you are providing bend or hook like this, if you are providing bend or hook in tension bars, it should be like this. See, it is given in the code. So this is the bars it will be coming from left side like this will come. At the end, you should have a hook like this. If this is the diameter of the bar, pi is the diameter of the bar, then the radius of this semicircle should be k times pi, and the remaining distance it should be minimum 4 times pi. This is a 4 times pi. So obviously, when you measure this one, this will be this is already 1 diameter, and this is k times diameter. So together it will become k plus 1 diameter. Now what is k? For a mild steel it is 2. For a deformed steel, k is equal to 4. This is for a standard hook. This is standard hook. This is standard 90-degree bend. Again, the radius should be 4 k pi. And wherever this radius is finishing, the quarter circle, from there it is only 4 pi minimum. 4 pi minimum vertical should be there. So if you are providing hook to the rod or bend to the rod, you have to follow the specification. As far as the tensile bars are concerned, this is for bars in tension. It is here. These are all for bars in tension. It is as per 26.2.2.1 of IS 456. Okay. Now, suppose, now what are the salient points? Deformed bars may not need end anchorage if the development length requirement is satisfied. What does it mean is, suppose let us say I have simply supported beam like this. Now I have a load. Now I have provided, let us say I have provided a tensile steel like this. Okay. Now I will see at support at the midpoint, I will see whether this much length of bar is sufficient or not. If this is sufficient, I am perfectly okay. But if this length is not sufficient, then I have to make the bar to bend like this, like 90-degree, the 90-degree bend, or I have to do a hook. But normally 90-degree bend would be sufficient. Like this, I have to bend 90-degree. That is why in the beam we will see at the end there is a L bar bending like this, and top bar also sometimes it is bent like that. So the bend is for taking care of this. This is called end anchorage. and from the center everything is called the development length. Okay, when we solve the numerical on this, you will have a better understanding, but for now you should know these are our salient points. Now hook should normally be provided for plain bars in tension. If you are using Fe 250 steel, normally nowadays it is not there, so this point is not valid anymore. But you should know, suppose if you are going for a plain steel, you should not provide simply L, you should provide a hook like this, 180 degree bend like this, 180 degree hook you should provide at both ends. The anchorage value of standard bend shall be considered as 4 times the diameter of the bar for each 45 degree bend, subject to a maximum volume of 16 times the diameter of the bar. So okay, so if you are bending for 45 degree, it will be 4 times the diameter. So similarly, maximum it should be 16 times the diameter of the bar. The anchorage value of standard U-type hook shall be 16 times the diameter. This is again same. See, these are both the same. Maximally 16 times the diameter. Okay. Now this is the this bar. This bar is in tension. This is an example of anchorage bar, anchorage bond in tension bars. Okay. Here this if you break a system here, this is subjected to tensile force, and the entire tensile force is taken by this bond force here. Only here, this is the bond force. So this is the anchorage bond in tension. So if this length is not sufficient, you will bend like this and put like this bar like this. Okay. So that is it. Now bars and compression. Suppose if you have bars and compression, you also have in a beam, you also have a compression steel, and that is given in IS 456. What they saying is that anchorage length of straight compression bar shall be equal to its development length, that we will see in figure now. The development shall include the projected length of hook bends and the straight length beyond bend if provided. For example, here you are providing a laser part. This is the hook. Now development length is only this much length only. This is the development length. Projected length of from this critical section from here to this is the development length. If it is a 90 degree hook, this is also same. But if you have a straight bar, this development length itself will become anchorage length. Like if the anchorage length of straight compression bar shall be equal to its development length. This is the development length. And if there is inclined bar, then also you will take only the horizontal portion, that is LD, that is the development length. Okay. These are all the bars and compression. Now for bars and shear, this is, remember, this is the stirrup. Bars and shear means stirrups, beam stirrups. Stirrups is made by taking a single rod. Okay, you take a single rod and bend it on all 4 sides, then you will get the stirrups. Now how to provide, how much should be the overlap length? Here, if you see here, I will just take here. Okay. Now this is the bar. Now assume that the bar is here. This bar is here in the corner. Now from the center of the bar, this leg should go 8 times the diameter of the bar. 8. If it is a 90 degree bend, this is 90 degree bend. This bar is bent 90 degree. This also bar bend is 90 degree. For 90 degree bend, remember you studied for every 45 degree, you have to use 4 times the diameter. Because it is 90 degree bend, you are using 8 times the diameter of the bar. Okay. So this is the stirrups. This is the stirrups. And they are given in a sample figure here. It will come like this. It will go like this, and then they will bend it like this. If it is already bent, you will not know. That is why they have shown like this. After that, they will bend 90 degree. So this length should be 8 times the diameter of the bar. Okay. Now suppose if you are bending 45 degree, this, like for example, you are taking the stirrups like this, I will go and bending to 45 degree like this. This is a 45 degree bend, or this is also 45 degree bend. So for this one, it should be 6 times the diameter of the bar. Okay. Now here, suppose if you are bending in some other form, it is at 180 degree you are bending. You are bending to 180 degree. This is also 180 degree. This is also 180 degree. Then from the center it should be 4 degree. This also from the center it should be 4 degree. So that is what is here, shown here. Okay. That is again is given in 26.2.4. Everything is there in your book, in your board book. You don't have to memorize anything, but sometimes it is written in terms of words, so you have to carefully see what is given. Now these are the various factors affecting bond stress: concrete cover, size and spacing of the reinforcement steel, geometry of the bar, transverse reinforcements, concrete grade, yield strength, surface condition of reinforcing bars, development length of bars, aggregate, and how much compaction or consolidation of concrete you are doing. For example, if this is your concrete beam, concrete cover, obviously if the cover between these two here, if you all of you pay attention here, suppose if the cover provided here is not sufficient, here also not sufficient, obviously the bond between concrete and steel will be very weak. Okay, so that concrete cover will make a difference to the bond stress. Similarly, size and spacing of the, suppose instead of providing 3 numbers of 25 mm diameter bar, I can provide 4 number of, I can provide many number of small diameter bars. That way what will happen is your surface area will increase and your bond strength will increase. So size and spacing of the reinforcement are also good. And geometry of the bar, whether it is a ribbed steel, deformed steel or plain bar, that also very severely affect. Because if you see, for a deformed bar, you are increasing the design bond stress by 1.6 times. Okay, so obviously that also affecting. And the transverse reinforcement, this is a transverse reinforcement. If the reinforcement, because the more number of reinforcement, transverse reinforcement is there, you will tie it together like this, right? You are going to tie it together, all these things. With all these reinforcements are tied to the transverse reinforcement. So more number of transverse reinforcement, you have a more number of bond. Then concrete grade, of course, if you see the table 26.2.1.1, your bond stresses keep on increasing or decreasing according to the grade. So that also. Similarly, yield steel, mild steel means some form, deformed bar means you have some other value. So like this, all these things is there. These are the factors affecting bond strength. So the last one, development length and support for a positive reinforcement. So when there is a positive, it is given in 26, I have copied paste here. At least 1/3 the positive moment reinforcement in simple member and 1/4 the positive moment reinforcement in the continuous member shall extend along the same phase of the member into the support to a length of LD by 3. Later on in the reinforcement detailing, you will be using this. What is I saying? Any positive reinforcement means your tensile reinforcement, sagging moment tensile reinforcement, that should be extended into the support to a length of LD by 3. LD is a development length. Now next one, at simple support and at point of inflection means what? What is point of inflection? Anybody? What is point of inflection? Anybody knows what is point of inflection? Yes. What is point of contraflexion?
BM,
so what?
Bending moment should be 0.
Bending moment 0.
0 or changes its signs?
Changes its sign.
Changes sign, sir.
Yeah, point of inflection, it changes its signs.
Changes
So positive,
its
yeah, okay. So at simple support and at points of inflection, the positive moment tension reinforcement shall be limited to a diameter such that LD means that pi times sigma divided by 4 tau d, that computed for FT does not exceed the following value here, M1 by V plus L0. What is M1, what is V, what is L0? It is given. M1 is the moment of resistance of the section, assuming all the reinforcements are fully stressed. That means under reinforced section. You find out the moment of resistance for under reinforced section. That is M1. V is the design shear force or factored shear force at that section. L0 is the anchorage length beyond the center of support. Please note down this one. Anchorage length beyond the center of the support, that is called L0. Now your code says and L0 should be less than or equal to effective depth or 12 times the diameter, whichever is the greater. Okay. Now the value of, like here the formula is m1 by v plus L0. This is m1 by v. The value of m1 by v in the above expression may be increased by 30% when the ends of the reinforcements are confined by a compressive action. Now what does this mean? For example, I have a simply supported beam. I am checking a development length. Let us say I am checking the development length at the support here. At the support I am checking here. Okay. Now here obviously my this tension reinforcement will be subjected to a upward reaction here, right? Upward reaction is here, and the beam is subjected to external load. So this bar is subjected to compression, like the ends of the reinforcement are confined by a compressive action. So at that time we are finding out development length here. I will use 1.3 m1 by v plus L0. But suppose if I am finding out at here at this cutoff point here, this here some reinforcement or cutoff point. Obviously, this section is not subjected to compressive reaction here, compressive reaction. So at this point, if I am checking the development length, it will be only m1 by v plus L0. Okay. So these are all theory concerning development length, anchorage, bond, and all these things. Tomorrow we will solve the numerical on this.